Good evening and welcome to the June 8th, 2023 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. We're running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Cohasset Stormwater Management and Wetland Protection Bylaws. We're operating tonight's meeting using the Zoom platform and ask the public who wish to speak to enter questions, comments, or concerns into the chat box. Please include your name and address. Only those who include name and address will be recognized. If you prefer, raise your hand and Charlotte will promote you to be able to speak. Present this evening on behalf of our commission, our town conservation agent, Charlotte Patel. I don't see Angela here. Not coming tonight? Okay. Is she going to take notes from the tape? Is that what she did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
She had a conflicting meeting tonight.
Okay. I'm going to take a roll call of the commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Will Ashton.
Will Ashton present.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell present.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre present.
Chris McFarland present. Tonight we have a quorum of 4 commissioners. Missing are Kathy Berrigan and Eric Eisenhower. We'll take all votes via roll call with commissioners answering yay, nay, or abstain. Okay. Our first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes from our April 27, 2023 hearing. Does anyone have any comments? No comments or concerns. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the April 27, 2023 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion, second. I'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton.
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Our first hearing this evening is a new hearing for 80 Black Horse Lane. I need to read it into the public record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Via remote participation on a Zoom platform to extend the order of conditions for notice of intent 20-09 for 2 years to complete the project at 80 Black Horse Lane. Okay, Charlotte, is Mr. Sawchuk going to present this, or do you want to just tell us what's going on? Keep it short and sweet.
Hi, Kristen. Hi, Wayne. So we have Kristen Selvin, the applicant, and Wayne Sawchuk, the contractor. Kristen and I'm so sorry. What's your husband's name?
John Sullivan.
Hi, John. Sorry. Can you guys just kind of briefly walk us through the, what's going on with the project, what's left to do, and why you're requesting a 2-year extension? And then we have Wayne, obviously, for questions as well.
Sure. And so basically, we've had some delays, and we now have a new contractor, Wayne, who's helping us through this. We've had some just basic contracting delays, and now we have Wayne helping us. So we're working to get the new subcontractors in place. And so the first thing that we're trying to do right now is the drainage swale between the 2 properties. And so that has commenced and is almost finished. And then after that, after we do that, then after that's completed, then they'll begin doing the grading and the stormwater and the water catch basins, finish the downspouts, that sort of thing. And so we expect to have that in place in the next 60 days. And then after that, we're going to do preliminary landscaping in the front, around the side, and then the back. And then in order to do the pool, we have to be on, we're trying to get on the list for next spring for a dig. So that is why the timeline looks the way that it does. We would hope to complete that and that little pool house by the end of the summer. And then we just had that little extra buffer just in case we would miss any plantings for that fall. We would still have the spring to be able to do any final plantings, any masonry work, that sort of thing, to be complete then by the June deadline.
Okay. Any questions by commissioners? Any concerns? Any comments from the public? Having no comments or concerns, I'll make a motion to to extend the order of conditions for notice of intent 20-09 for 2 years. And Charlotte, I assume that's 2 years from the date of expiration?
Correct. Yeah, I was just looking it up. It would be 2 additional years from June 26, 2023.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Charlotte, do we need to issue anything else along with this? Do we need to extend like a
I think it would make
variance?
sense. Yeah, so the majority of the work, actually almost all of the work is occurring outside of the 50-foot buffer, but there obviously may be some temporary disturbance from, installing the pool. So if we grant a variance for this project originally, which I believe we did, it might be good to just note that, to just, grant a variance really only for temporary construction disturbance. It looks like a little bit of a crushed stone trench within the 50-foot buffer, but everything else appears to be outside of the 50-foot buffer.
All right, I'll make a motion to also extend the variance for work within the 50-foot buffer as shown on the plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Having a motion and second, take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Our next hearing this evening, also new to the hearing, is at 83 Elm Street. I read the notice of public hearing into the record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for a request for determination of applicability 23-07 for Joseph Durkin to construct a deck and addition within the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh at 53 Elm Street.
Paul, can you hear us? You're muted.
There you go.
Hey, Paul, can you hear us? Not sure if his sound is working. We also have Joseph Durkin in the audience. I am trying to promote him. There we go. There we go. Hi, Joseph. Can you hear us? You're also muted. We do see Paul. He's maybe have trouble with sound.
How you doing?
Okay. we
Hi.
can hear you.
So I guess Joe, would you like to start? Maybe until Paul can get his sound, I can open up the plot plan just to show everyone what you're proposing.
I'll defer to Paul if he can figure out his audio.
Might have to sign out and sign back in again.
I don't know if Alyssa Jones is on. If she joined.
I do see Alyssa. Yes, I can promote her as well.
My first time going through this process, so I defer to them to kind of run through it from an expert level, but
Yeah, no worries.
I'm happy to chime in where needed.
Ms. Jones, you're muted.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm the architectural designer on the project, working with Joe. And I think, we were hoping that Paul would be able to speak about this project, but the existing house, we're looking to kind of extend the family room about 5 feet and rebuild. There's an existing deck that is within, let's see, the existing deck is within the 100-foot buffer. But we were hoping to extend that a little bit larger as well. Let's see.
Charlotte, will you zoom out just a hair, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Paul, I do see you now on video. Can you hear us?
No.
Don't think you have sound.
No, not working. So Alyssa, how high off the ground is the deck?
Sure. So let's see, the deck is about, let's see, the grade is around elevation 7, and then the deck would be up around elevation 11.9. So, about maybe 3.5 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Or 4.5 feet.
Okay.
And just looking at some of Paul's clarifications from some of my questions, the impervious addition will be 336 square feet and the pervious deck is 355 square feet. The application, it does need zoning review, so it has been filed for zoning review as well. And it does call for 4 inches of crushed stone under the deck, or 4-inch crushed stone under the deck.
And why is it going for zoning review?
I think it relates to the setbacks of where the existing home is. I can double check with, let me just pull up my comments here, but yeah, it's within side setbacks, it appears, so that it will just need zoning review as well.
And is the deck just being built on columns?
Yes, yeah. So we would yes, it would be like sonotubes.
Yeah.
Probably yes, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
That's a quick answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions, commissioners?
Yes, I do. Could you back out just a little bit, Charlotte? And I'm looking for a line that shows the extent of the FEMA flood zone.
Sure. I think the whole property is in the flood zone.
And what's the elevation of your flood zone?
I think it's AE 9.
Well, that can vary from place to AE9 you need to have a specific elevation here, I think.
Oh, sorry. The flood zone is AE 9,
Oh, okay, it's 9 feet then?
and our structure, yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks. So you're going to be 2 feet plus above that, the flood zone, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And they have, I know it might be a little hard to see, but they have proposed a silt sock within the 100-foot buffer, nothing in the 50-foot buffer. And it looks like, just according to where the 100-foot buffer is on this plan here, I know it's a little hard to see, but this line right here. So there'll be a small portion of the addition, and I would say majority of the proposed deck that'll be built in the 100. But then most of the addition will be within the, built within the existing home. So that'll be just outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Any other questions? Any comments? Anyone from the public?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm curious, like, why would this be exempt? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm asking for myself, because of like decks, I guess specifically, like, decks in the 100 only. Is that something that's been exempt in the past, Charlotte or Chris?
Conversion to I think from lawn to other pervious surfaces is typically considered, I think, a minor activity under the act. But since our bylaws are stricter than the act, we normally do look at, pervious and impervious structures within the buffer zones. But at least with decks, from what I've seen, we normally go through the RDA process unless there's more extensive work that may or may not be needed. But, with a pervious deck structure, we still, at least under our bylaws and regulations, want to see any alterations within the buffer zone.
I'm not sure that answers your question.
Sorry, does that answer your question, Chris? I believe it's listed as a minor activity under the Wetlands Protection Act. I can't remember the exact language, but
So I think the main thing is that the additional impervious surface within the buffer zone is, yes, the additional impervious surface within the 100-foot buffer is less than 500 square feet. Isn't that really what this comes down to?
Well, that would be yes so it wouldn't need a stormwater permit
Right.
because they're only increasing net impervious on the site by the 336 square feet for the addition, and then the deck obviously is pervious. But for the purposes of the RDA, it would be the work within the 100-foot buffer, including the proposed deck and a small portion of the addition that's just crossing into the 100-foot buffer. I'm not sure about the square footage of how much impervious within this small section is being added, but it's obviously not the full 336 square feet in the 100.
So beneath the deck is, what actually is beneath the deck?
4 inches of crushed stone. Hold on, I think it says so in the notes.
Okay,
Install 4 inches of 3/4 inch crushed stone below proposed deck.
okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Concerns? There's no comments or concerns. I'll make a motion to issue a negative. Does anyone have any conditions with this? No? And I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and issue a -2 determination for RDA 23-08 at 53 Elm Street. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, I.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McTerra.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So Chris, I think to answer your question, it just has to do with the kind of the magnitude of the project and whether or not
Sorry, yeah.
it's really altering a considerable portion of the buffer in a way that's going to adversely affect it. So,
Okay.
okay, our next hearing this evening is a new RDA at 93 Howard Gleason Road. I'll read it into the public record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for a request for determination of applicability 23-09 for Stephen and Doreen Scullin to restore and extend a stone wall at 98 Howard Gleason Road.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you guys tonight?
Good.
Good, thank you.
Steve, I can pull up your plan. I apologize on the scanned submission. It's a little blurry, but do you want to walk us through your project?
Charlotte,
Um,
before we get, I'm sorry,
Yep.
Stephen, before we get started, my understanding on this project is that the restoration, the extension of the wall is outside of the buffer zone and that the restoration is within the buffer zone. Is that correct?
So the extension of the wall, I know it's a little hard to see here, but this dotted line right here is the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh on the adjacent property. And then there's another salt marsh just up to Howard Gleason Road across the street. So I would say the extension of the wall for the most part is in the 100-foot buffer, but the rest, there's the stone boulders along the border, property line border facing Howard Gleason Road. That portion of the work would at least be within the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh across the street, most likely the 50-foot buffer based on, roughly measuring it. So I know it's a little hard to see, but the wetland here, the salt marsh is, the wetland is mapped at the abutting property, but we don't see it on the site plan here, but there is a wetland or a salt marsh right across the street on Howard Gleason Road.
All right, that didn't make it more clear.
Sorry.
You're saying that the restoration on Howard Gleason Road
Mhm.
is within the 100-foot buffer.
Yes.
Okay, the extension of the wall, the horizontal line
Mhm.
is not within the 100-foot buffer.
This one is. So I know it's, I've tried to zoom in quickly, but this dotted line is the 100-foot buffer. So this wall extension is within the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, but it's not within the 50-foot buffer.
I would anticipate a small portion is in the 50-foot buffer to the salt marsh across the street, but the majority of the work for the walls will be in the 100-foot buffer. That's why Steve submitted a variance request, because I think the small portion of the work, at least here, right at the entrance to the driveway, may be in the 50-foot buffer for the salt marsh across the street.
The black dash line being the 50-foot buffer to the salt marsh across the street.
I think you can't see it delineated on this plan, but there is a salt marsh that goes right up to Howard Gleason Road, like right here.
Mhm.
And so the 50-foot buffer will probably be somewhere stretching across Howard Gleason Road, and then the 100-foot buffer will obviously be 50 feet out from that.
Mhm.
So I think the work closest to Howard Gleason Road could potentially be in the 50-foot buffer, but the rest of the work should be in the 100-foot buffer.
Okay.
If
Sorry.
I could add just, I apologize for the confusion. I wasn't quite sure where the 50-foot buffer started on the side of the road, which borders the yacht club, where there's a yacht club parking lot. it's approximately 30 feet and then a buffer on, and then the wetlands on the other side of it. So when I measured it, it's roughly the reconstructed, the new wall, which would extend, is anywhere from 20 feet from the 30 feet extension that makes. So I do believe that the portion of it that starts from the road up, as Charlotte was saying, is most likely within the 50-foot for about 20 feet, and then the rest is probably within the 100-foot, if that helps clarify it at all.
This raises a question of whether there's been a wetland delineation, first of all, that's valid, and secondly, whether these buffers have been surveyed in and flagged properly. That's my question. Has it been do we have a valid wetlands delineation? Number one. Number two, have these buffers been surveyed and flagged?
From my perspective, and I apologize, I'm really new at this. The wetlands and the buffers that are on what would be, I guess, the north side of Howard Gleason, I believe, have been surveyed and delineated correctly. It's where the wetlands are on the opposite side of Howard Gleason, on the harbor side where the yacht club is where there's a question of where exactly they start. Do they start at the yacht club parking lot, or do they start at Howard Gleason Road?
Yeah, so this was the, just so that the commission's aware, there's an open stormwater permit for 98 Howard Gleason as well for the construction of the new home. That's, almost done, but this was the approved site plan for the stormwater permit. So you can see the delineation of at least a partial delineation of the wetland on the adjacent property. So this 50 and 100-foot buffer, that's the information that he took to mark up the plan. But as you can see across the street from Howard Gleason Road, we don't have the delineation of the salt marsh across the street. There is, I do have an approved site plan with delineation for 98, I think it's 90 Howard Gleason, a couple houses down, but I'm not sure if you can see the extent of it on the plan. But yes, this was the delineation for the 2021 stormwater permit.
So can with your cursor, can you indicate what part of the proposed construction where it'll be on this plan, where we've got an actual delineation that's valid?
Okay, let me try to draw it. And Steve, please correct me if I'm doing it incorrectly, but I think you wanted a granite post here.
Correct.
And then you wanted to repair this section that currently is just stone boulders.
Correct.
And then extend the wall, you said about, was it 96 feet or 100 feet?
It's about 93 feet up to the tree line. So just about actually where you just ended the line, right about
Oh,
there.
sorry. Okay, yeah, so right about here.
That's correct.
Okay,
it's
so
the
this
rest
would be a
of-
brand new wall, and then this would be replacing the stone boulder wall with a wall, like a, you said it was, what was the height again?
18 inches.
18 inches, okay. So kind of like the one across the way on the abutting property?
Yeah, the intent was to match what was on the other side of the property.
Yeah.
Just from a perspective of balance, and then rebuild one column to match the other column.
Mhm.
And it's believed, I have no idea if this is true or not, that there were originally two columns. One is gone,
Mhm.
and the other one actually is in need of repair and then is falling down.
So with regard to the repairs, I don't really have an issue with that. It's already in place. But what's not clear to me is where that 50-foot buffer from the salt marsh across the street crosses here. So that's what's missing clearly.
Mhm.
And so I think to move forward, we're going to need to see that regulatory line.
I do have a partial line right here in green, but of course it's not, a full picture, but this would be it's pretty much right up to the road.
Hang on a second, let me take a look
Yeah.
at that.
But is the parking lot right across the street too? Wouldn't it then?
The parking lot is like over here. And then at some point, I think in front of 92 Howard Gleason, the salt marsh starts. But yeah, the yacht club's like right over there. Kind of like more in front of the 100 to 104 Howard Gleason Road parcel. But I think the parking lot is a little, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it is a little bit in front of the driveway, but then maybe a little bit over. I think the salt marsh starts a little bit further down in front of 92 Howard Gleason.
I would actually politely correct where our driveway
Sorry.
comes out roughly, if you pull out of our driveway to Howard Gleason, a third of the parking lot is, maybe a quarter of the parking lot is to the right, and 3/4 of it is to the left. But I will say that that parking lot at high tide or in storms is, under 6 inches of water. So I don't want to make it sound like the parking lot is dry. It is not. But the parking lot that's where I was confused. When I measured from the edge of Howard Gleason on the yacht club side, it's about 25-ish feet, if you will, to where the restoration starts. So then if you figure the 50 feet goes another 25 feet up, that's where I would be putting a new wall in, to be frank. And then the parking lot probably goes another 20 feet towards the salt marsh, towards the yacht club. But again, that is flooded at high tide. I don't want to make any misconception of what's happening. And I don't know exactly how much of that parking lot might be in the salt marsh, if you will. Does that make sense or help it up or make it more confusing?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what construction method you're going to use to build this wall?
Whatever you all are most comfortable with. If it can be a drywall, it's basically for aesthetics. So I wanted to have as little impact on water flow or the land conservation as possible. So it can be dry, and we're talking a wall that's basically 18 inches high and probably about 20 inches wide.
Right.
So there's no intent to build a structure that would interfere with any natural flow or whatever.
And you're saying it's 92 feet long?
It's roughly 93 feet long from the start of the property on Howard Gleason up to the tree line, which you can see. Actually, this is a good picture. So now you can see where the parking lot is, if you will.
Yeah.
I was trying to describe. And if you look at the amber line that depicts our property on the left side of this picture, from my point of view, it's that amber line up to the tree line, which is roughly 93 feet. And you can see where I was kind of not wanting to misrepresent where I did my measurements from the road when I said it's roughly 23 feet, as opposed to using the parking lot, which would make the 50-foot area a lot less in terms of the wall, but I'm not sure that's an honest depiction.
Yeah, and it's a little hard to see, but this is the degraded stone boulder wall on the left side of the driveway. And as you can see, that this is where the extent of the salt marsh is. So I don't know if I have a measuring tool here, but I think
It's the repair is just barely within the 50, and the proposed, at least by my measurements, the proposed extension, maybe the first 5 feet are in the 50. So it seems, I mean, we obviously prefer that an engineer determine all of this, but this is a small repair. I'm comfortable just making our own measurements off maps here and saying that, understanding that, yes, your 90 feet of wall is outside of the 50, or if any of it's inside, it could be the first 5 feet. So it's not terribly significant, and you already have a wall there. So on alongside the street, so that's a repair. So that seems to me fine.
We able to make conditions if we have a negative determination?
yeah, a -3 determination can be confirming that the project doesn't need a notice of intent, but has special conditions. A -2 would be no conditions.
Are you on maps right now, Charlotte?
This is a near map.
Can you, do they have a road view or an eye view?
Like a
Like a street view?
street
No.
view? No,
No?
this is just, these are aerials. Do you want me to go to Street View, maybe on Google?
Well, I just want to see what the other wall is
Oop.
like. I mean, he wants to match the other wall. I
Oh.
want to see whether or not
Yeah,
it's.
I can show you.
Actually, I submitted some pictures of that, in the.
Oh, you did? Yeah, thank you.
I tried to take pictures of the existing and the one I want to repair versus the one that's there, if that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. Hold on. So that's the, this is the existing wall on the right side, the opposite side, closer to the yacht club. And you can see in the second photo from the height, it's about 18 inches. And then this is the stone wall, and behind the fire hydrant, it's pretty much just like a line of boulders. And then that's the view from the entrance to the driveway, the, parking lot across the street. Thank you for all the photos.
Pleasure.
So I'd like to make a condition that you build it, it's not a dry laid wall because it is going to have mortar to it. But it can be constructed without, a big machinery and heavy footings. Because historically that wall probably does not have that. And so I think the construction method should be similar. I will, on the other hand, say that this is potentially town property. I don't know where your lot line actually is off of Howard Gleason Road. But you should check with the building department, because I know that other people in town have gotten in trouble for building onto town property when your property line is actually back from the road. So
Interesting. I'll be happy to check that. It's again, this is all kind of new. My understanding is that it is within the property line that we walked with the engineer and the builder at the beginning. But I will confirm that. I don't want to build on town property, and we'll build with whatever construction technique is appropriate for the land. We certainly don't want to do anything proper.
okay. Chris, did you have some conditions you were considering?
Yeah, no, just that, there's no heavy equipment. And I don't, there's no excavation, I guess. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously they should dig down a little bit just to put a
Yeah,
gravel base or something like
Sure.
that, or sometimes they'll even put a heavier stone at the bottom, but yeah, okay.
Do you intend to move the existing stones at all?
The stones that you're looking at on the upper right-hand picture.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, we would move that. If you can see, I'm pointing here, which is useless. There's a post behind one of the stones. So we would probably, the wall would follow that line where those stones are. And then that's the restored part, and then take a right-hand corner off the property line. So yes, those first set of stones would be moved or incorporated into the wall, frankly, if we can.
yeah, I'm looking at Mass Mapper right now with aerial images, and just to Chris's comment about property line, and I would second that recommendation to check with the town on that, because it does look like that would be in the outside the lot line.
If it's definitely outside the lot line, we're happy to go back to where the lot line is. Again, we're aesthetically trying to follow the wall on the other side.
Keep in mind that the Mass Mapper assessor's parcel boundaries are frequently offset a bit, because they had to fit each of these properties. They had to tile them essentially. And so that means they make compromises about where the lot lines appear on the map. And they don't necessarily, they can't be used for regulatory purposes. And they state that clearly.
Yeah.
Just a kind of an approximation of where those lots are. So it's something that needs to be confirmed by either town, that they say, yes, your property line is there, or it's someplace else. So again, that just reinforces what Chris and the two Chris's and I would say is that you do need to confirm with DPW where your lot line actually is.
I'll be happy to do that. I do know that we had the property recently surveyed just to make sure that we're within our delineations as it related to some things doing with the yacht club in terms of who maintains what, that the surveyor stakes actually go down to the wall, but I'm happy to reconfirm that with the town and make sure we're in the correct spot.
Well, there would be a width here of the road that is defined in the town for each one of the roads, I believe. And so the surveyors have an additional difficulty in that many of these deeds stipulate azimuths and lengths, and they have to have a starting point, right? Anytime you do a survey, you have to have a known point that you start from. And sometimes those are not very clear or don't exist anymore, because some of these lots, of course, were defined more than a century ago. So again, it can be a little bit tricky knowing where your lot starts and ends. So it really depends on where their starting point is here. If you start in the wrong place, your lot's going to be in the wrong place. Even a professional surveyor will tell you that, and some of them sometimes find themselves kind of struggling to do this.
But likely they've put in a corner post and they're
Hopefully,
gonna say that that's where it is, so,
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. okay. Okay. Any other comments, concerns? Nothing from the public? I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing and to make a motion to issue a -2 determination, which has conditions?
-3.
-3 determination with the condition that the construction of the wall will be it'll be a hand-built wall. It will not include concrete footings and forms. And that the applicant will also verify with surveyor and building department that they're on their property. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second, yeah.
Having, thanks, Will. Having a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ash and I.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. We'll also need to make a motion to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer associated with the building of this wall. Do I have a second?
second,
Having a motion and second, take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ash and I.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, our next hearing this evening is at 99 Border Street, also new. I have to read the notice of public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts general laws. Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 23-16 for Tom Kelly to perform hardscape improvements, including the existing driveway and gravel area, removing a fire pit, and constructing a seat wall at 99 Border Street. I apologize, my print was not very good.
Hi, I'm Amy Wolfson. I'm one of the representatives for 99 Border Street, and I believe Jeff Hassett is also here. And I think he's going to start presenting the plan, and then I'll supplement with any information that's needed.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Amy with Amy Martin Landscape Design prepared a kind of a landscape hardscape improvements plan for this property. It's a 99 Border Street. It probably looks familiar. We've been in front of you with other NOI filings on this property a few times in the last several years. But the Kellys recently bought the property, and we're here for kind of a number of small things that I'll just run through on the plan and one by one. Right, so we submitted a site plan as well as a landscape plan, and the first item we're proposing is Border Street is at the top of the page. The home is here, and the golf is off the property in the rear. Excuse me. So the first item is that currently they have a paved driveway. They would like to replace that paved driveway with a cobblestone driveway of essentially the same size. It'll be a few square feet smaller. Secondly, in the front of the property, currently it's just crushed stone and gravel, and they don't have a walkway. So they're proposing a short walkway, which will be pervious pavers from the driveway to the front door. And then the roof downspouts at the front of the house just go to the ground. So we're taking this opportunity to put in a crushed stone trench with a perforated pipe in it and piping that roof runoff to that trench and promoting recharge on the property instead of just letting it run off. And at the rear of the property, they have a patio with a fire pit. They don't want the fire pit, so we're proposing to remove that. And then the fire pit patio kind of comes to is squared off along the house. And they would like to pull that back a little bit and round it off with a seat wall. And then that's kind of the extent of the hardscape. In addition, they're proposing numerous plantings throughout the entire property, which Amy shows on her plan. There's a total of about 250 bushes, shrubs, perennials, and ferns. So, and they're all native. So it ends up being a slight decrease in impervious. I don't see any negative impact on the wetlands. And I think it'll be a vast improvement just with all the vegetation on this property and stabilizing it a little bit better. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
What's the net increase?
It's a slight decrease in impervious.
Oh,
So.
So you're counting the cobblestone as pervious?
No, impervious. So to kind of summarize it, the driveway right now to be removed is 326 square feet of asphalt. It'll be 310 square feet of cobblestones. The walkway to the front door will be pervious, and we have a detail of that on the site plan.
Okay.
And at the rear, they're removing 35 square feet in that back corner of patio, and then putting back in a seat wall that takes up 25 square feet. So net, it's about 20 square feet of less impervious.
and the plantings, are they all shrubs, any trees or anything?
Amy, you want to take that?
Yes, I will. So we are proposing 5 Amelanchier trees, which are definitely appropriate for this site. And then as part of this whole landscape plan, and we are going to be replacing some of the non-native trees that were part of the previous plan with Amelanchier trees that are on the coastal bank. So we are proposing 5 trees, and then in addition to the trees, native inkberry holly shrubs, summer sweet clethra shrubs, and then a large amount of herbaceous species. And I'm happy to review all of those too.
So Charlotte, there is the order, was there a certificate of compliance from the previous
Yes, in terms of the permitting history for this, just really quickly, there is a current order of conditions open for the property for the construction of the dock, which is, I don't know if you've gotten the Chapter 91 license yet. And then there was another 2017 order of conditions and stormwater permit that was recently closed out with a certificate of compliance with our standard conditions to, not use herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, et cetera, on the property, and also to maintain the proposed plantings for 3 full growing seasons. I've seen this site a couple times. The plantings that they're proposing down by the where the dock is and the stairs down from the deck, some of those plants have died. I think all of the trees have died, and a handful of shrubs, I think, might be dead. So they are proposing to replace those as part of this permit, and, as I think in good faith with the COC to maintain those plantings or replace them. So, yeah.
So Amy, the 5 trees that you're showing colored green, those are the Amelanchier?
Yeah, so those are the trees that are sort of part of this new project. And then the trees that are not green, they're the same species, but those are replacing the previously approved trees that were planted that are non-native Coosa dogwood trees.
Well, the Coosa dogwood would never have been approved, so obviously that's not what was approved there.
That were planted, excuse me.
Okay, so we need to go back to the original order of condition. The idea is that those trees are supposed to be of a shade tree quality, not a small tree like an Amelanchier. So Charlotte, do you have any idea what those were? Well, I'm sure they weren't.
Yeah, I can pull that up real quick.
I'm sure they weren't Coosa.
Well, I think they would have
I think
been
they might-
Nyssa sylvatica, possibly,
I
but
believe, possibly, yes.
and we're happy to switch that out. But I believe that part of this project is not part of this notice of intent. It's more the maintenance of the previous project, the previous notice of intent. So we're happy to replace those with whatever you want. And it can, of course, be whatever was previously approved.
Okay.
Yeah, the previous plan that was approved just before the permit was closed out with the COC to maintain those plantings is, well, they're supposed to be black tupelo trees
Yes.
and a row of shrubs. I believe they're mostly inkberry. And then I know we went back and forth on the path from the stairway to the dock, but we agreed to just have that be kind of like a wild seed mix that would just be kind of maintained. But yeah, it had 3 trees at the bottom of that coastal bank slope area, and then a handful of native shrubs. And as part of the COC, it's to maintain those plantings for 3 full growing seasons or be replaced by the owner.
So Amy, I would say that just to obviously that has to be done. Charlotte, I know that on other projects, the suggestion was not to start another project without closing out the original. Well, it's been closed, correct?
Yes, so
it has to be separate. It has to be a separate situation.
Correct. Yeah, you can have
Okay.
more than one open permit on the property. It's just DEP usually recommends to not have 2 permits open for the same type of project. So you
All
can
right.
have,
Well,
like
but this isn't open. This is a condition that has to be met.
No, that was an ongoing
Okay.
condition to maintain the plantings as part of a COC for the 2017 order of conditions.
All right. So Amy, I would recommend that the
Mhm.
homeowner, however they want to do it, they replace the planting that was part of the original order of conditions, and then obviously you can, as long as you stay with the with native species, you can augment which needs to be there.
Okay.
What is the hedge? Are those existing or are those proposed, the hedge? You seem to have some hedge planting.
The ones here along the patio,
Yeah,
those are existing.
those are existing. And what are those?
Boxwood.
How the heck they get in there? Were those? Charlotte, you have to check that to see if that's
Okay.
what's on the plan as well.
I might be able to find that too.
Yeah, let me
Again-
know if you beat me, Jeff.
Again, I don't think Boxwood would have been approved. Which concerns me because I see some bigger hedges flanking the deck and the patio, which I can only imagine.
Well, I can assure you that all of the plants that are proposed on this plan are completely appropriate for this site and on.
I understood.
So, no, and I understand your
obviously,
concern.
so obviously we'll separate the two situations. We have a situation to approve what's before us tonight. We also have a situation that we're just mentioning that
Mhm.
any kind of planting that doesn't meet with the original order of conditions is going to have to be replaced as well. So you'll probably want to
That's
modify
fine.
accordingly.
Okay.
Do any commissioners have any other concerns or comments about this application?
I just had one on the gravel trench. Is there an overflow off of that? I didn't see one on the plan. The gravel trench under the
The
front.
overflow would essentially be at the top of the stone. It would overflow out of the stone itself.
So we'll just flood that area. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the trees and shrubs were outside of the order of conditions, what about the turf there? I don't believe we approved turf. We were looking for native grasses.
We don't have any turf proposed.
Yeah, we're back on the not what you proposed.
There's
but
no turf there now either.
what's the existing situation for ground cover there?
In the front, it's gravel.
No, in the back, by the steps specifically.
And sorry to interrupt, guys, just to answer your question from earlier. This was actually, I apologize, this was a 2021. There were multiple permits on this, so I'm sorry, I get it mixed up. It was a 2021 deck and dock site plan. So the 2017 permit was for the house, and then the 2021 one was for this patio area and dock, but then the dock wasn't done, closed out, then they reopened the permit. So yeah, not sure what happened in 2021, but it does say proposed privet hedge. And then they were supposed to be dogwood trees down there, but we had an amended plan.
Yes, we
which I can
did.
pull up briefly, and that had the updated plantings. Some of them that were obviously already planted, but this is the one that had the black tupelo and the other native shrubs. And then we wanted the conservation seed mix spread for the path.
So it sounds like the contractor was working off their original plan and ignored the order.
We approved this amended plan right around the time that this was a very weird instance where, it was, long story short, it was a show cause hearing that the stairs were changed. And so we agreed on an amended plan, and this was the agreement to do 3 trees and more shrubs and then the native conservation seed mix. But all of everything else that was already planted, I think, was a part of the original plan from 2021. And then this we approved just shortly before issuing a COC.
Amy, do you know what the hedges on either end of the patio and the deck are?
Right now, they're boxwood shrubs.
Even the ones that are shown bigger?
No, they're the bigger ones are ilex, like the blue princess
there are some.
hollies,
Mhm.
which
Oh.
there's only one that survived. So
Oh, okay.
Not the non-native evergreen shrubs that didn't do very well.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I think they had at least 3, 4, 5, maybe more, 6 hollies, and they all died.
Yeah, one looks pretty good.
Okay. There was a really bad drought last year, so.
Yeah.
All right, so Charlotte, I'm not sure if those plants, how'd the boxwood do?
Most of the boxwood did really well, surprisingly well. There are a few that didn't do well, but I'm surprised at how well they did.
Are you working around the boxwood?
We are, so we like to keep them because they're doing well. If we didn't keep them, I think I would suggest like the sort of the native alternative, which would be an inkberry holly.
Mhm.
But since they are doing well, I would leave them, and the ones that haven't survived, I would remove those. And we wouldn't add any more boxwood.
Mhm. So Charlotte, I don't want to hold up what we're here for tonight, but it might be worth, I mean, it might be worth considering rather than a direct one-for-one replacement of plants previously specified, that maybe a new planting plan is submitted, so that Amy can actually work with what's there rather than going back and putting in some plants that may not be appropriate. I think the Nissa are appropriate, and I think we want a tree that's going to grow well, and larger than Amelanchier. So
Mhm.
I think that's the intent for that small island. Other than that, I think it might be worth letting her make modifications that make sense as part of a whole plan, rather than
Yeah.
going back. Now-
Yeah, sorry. So, since the permit was closed out with the COC with just the ongoing conditions, would you want to see an updated site plan or an updated planting plan, kind of just like, just emailed to me, or do we want that officially through like a submission for the commission to review?
You and I can review it.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Yeah, so just for like the maintenance of that area as part of the ongoing conditions, we can just look at an updated planting plan?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Any other comments or concerns? Anyone from the public? If there's no other comments or concerns, I'm going to close the public hearing and make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 99 Border Street, with the condition that the new planting plan be reviewed by Charlotte and myself, to be approved for species that are going to be installed as new plantings, as well as replacements for plants that did not survive as part of a previous order of conditions. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
Having a motion and second, issue an order of conditions for NOI 23-16 at 99 Border Street. Take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Mr. McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. Do we need a make a motion?
Pretty much the whole property's in the 50-foot
So-
buffer.
Make a motion to issue an variance for work within the 50-foot buffer. Do I have a second?
Second,
Having a motion and second, we'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Mr. McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You. Our next hearing this evening is a new hearing for 74 Forest Avenue. I need to read the notice of public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 PM via remote participation on a Zoom platform for notice of intent 23-17 and stormwater permit 23-10 for Chris Condrat to construct a horse barn and paddock at 74 Forest Avenue.
All right, thanks. Jeff Bassett here again. This is an NOI filing for a barn for 2 horses at the Condrat's property at 74 Forest Ave. This property it's a retreat lot set back from Forest Ave, and it's about 5.5 acres developed with a single family home. So this is the property here, and it's accessed via common driveway across properties in front of it. Back to a house, the driveway's here, and this area right here in their side yard is where they're proposing to construct the barn and the corral. The Condrats are, longtime horse owners. They're very familiar with horses, and they would like to keep their 2 horses on their property. That was their goal in buying this property. So what we're proposing is a 24 by 36 barn located right here, and then a fenced-in corral. So in plan view, their driveway is here, their garage and house, and the existing tree line is here with the barn. The wetland line is in blue, the 50-foot buffer in red, and the 100-foot buffer in green. We feel this is an appropriate location because all of the work is outside of the 50-foot buffer. It's primarily in an area that's existing lawn, and the area is relatively flat. Most of the area slopes away from the wetland in this direction. There's a small portion that kind of this corner that slopes towards the direction of the wetland. So in that area, we're proposing a 6-inch berm along the fence. And that is to capture any runoff. Realistically, I don't expect any runoff because, again, it's flat and it will be sand within the corral, but it's kind of a backup. And then beyond there, you have a 50-foot buffer of vegetation. Therefore, I do feel it will protect the wetland resource area there. We are specifying all the normal construction phase erosion controls. There'll be a mulch sock with a siltation fence at the down gradient limit of work, which we've actually already staked in the field. And any staging and stockpile areas will be in the lawn outside of the 100-foot buffer. This project has been approved by the Board of Health. As part of that, they did prepare a stable management plan, and that plan details how they will maintain the barn and the paddock. So basically, they're going to clean the barn and the paddock daily. Any manure or wood chips will be stored in covered trash barrels, 20 gallons. And then weekly, they have an agreement with Holly Hill Farm where they're going to bring that there and they're going to turn it into compost. So I think it's a good project. That management plan also goes into more detail on pest and insect and predator control, as well as noise, things that the Board of Health was more concerned about. And the neighborhood generally seems to be in favor of this. They've submitted 6 letters from the neighbors supporting this project. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you. I'll also show you, this is a photograph of the lawn area.
Charlotte, I mentioned to you from the operation and management plan, I mentioned it, was there a section on handling of manure and Jeff, Charlotte wasn't able to find it. Can you?
I think it's in the first section and
Oh, you did have it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I was reading through it very briefly, but yeah, thank you, Jeff. So yeah, it does say mucked every morning. And everything will be cleaned with a pitchfork. Sorry, I can't, can you zoom in a tad, Jeff? Thank you. And just so that the commission's aware as well, we did update because this is a notice of intent and a stormwater permit. Jeff updated the long-term operation and maintenance plan of the site to not use fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, et cetera, within 100 feet of any BVW, within 25 feet of any IVW, and also to minimize the fertilizer use on the property to, I think it was 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet, which is consistent with the other project on 318 Forest Ave where we had revised in that case, it was the stable management plan, but we had revised the documents to minimize fertilizer use and to have it be time released, low nitrogen fertilizer for anything outside of wetlands jurisdiction.
Can you jump back to the plan for a second?
Sure.
So is the corral the same as the paddock?
I'm using those words like kind of one and the same, yeah.
We should just make a note that those are the same so that the management is of the paddock and not something otherwise.
Okay.
So, Tom, I'm going to try to state a couple things that we've talked about, and I'd like you to chime in because I think this is more your expertise. Jeff, one of the questions we had, and we haven't spent any time out there. Charlotte's been out there briefly, but it seems like there's a possibility that there's a wetland to the north of this property.
North, okay.
Well, assuming Page North, let me say Page North. I don't know where the
Yeah,
north arrow is.
north is north on the page, yeah.
So we just want to, I mean, either you can verify or we can go out and verify, but there was some indication based on just study of topography and some vegetative photographs that potentially there's some to the north. Tom, I don't know if you felt that was within a buffer zone distance from there or not, but something that we need to consider. The other thing is that because the runoff is fairly direct to the wetland, we've on previous project, we've looked at more than just a 6-inch berm to be kind of the collection method, because it in effect, you know, whether you're in the middle of the paddock or you're right at the edge, it's going to seep into the ground. If the manure, you know, gets rained on, everything's going to seep into the ground pretty quickly, but that's going to make its way down to the wetland. So the previous on previous applications, the idea was actually to redirect the water from going into the ground, you know, kind of having that time to seep into the ground, and rather instead to be collected and moved further away from the wetland. I'm just wondering if that's a possibility on this.
Well, you have a natural high point through the site here.
Yep.
And the majority of that runoff is heading in a northerly direction, where if there is a wetland, I think it's set back a ways, so the buffer wouldn't have a big impact here. So I was more thinking this area is going to be relatively flat. I don't expect a lot of runoff in this direction. I did look at a couple other projects, that one I worked on, another one you permitted more recently for horse corrals near wetlands, and a stone trench was used.
Mm-hmm.
I felt personally a berm would be more effective, because a stone trench might clog up over time. Either way would work. I certainly could regrade this whole area to go the other direction, but it'd be a fair amount of site work to do that. I don't know if the benefit outweighs the amount of site work.
Well, you know, unfortunately, we're not horse experts, but we have had input from engineers that consider themselves to be more experts than we are, and it does seem that the concern is that you are potentially transporting different substances into the groundwater fairly quickly. And so the further the further you can keep it from the wetland, the better. So, I mean, so right now you've got a 19 knoll at that corner, and it's heading towards the barn, and it's heading off the back side. So as long, I mean, I guess it wouldn't take that much additional to even raise it a little bit, would it? I mean, what if the berm was well, I don't, I don't know I don't know, as far as horses are concerned, I'm not sure how much room you need to, I mean, is this a paddock that's going to be ridden in?
Yeah, I mean, this is the size that the Conrads felt they were comfortable with for 2 horses. And to make it larger, we'd have to go back towards the rear where that's a natural wooded area, or go closer to the house. And the Board of Health actually has a 100-foot setback to the house.
Understood.
And they were willing to give us a waiver up to 50 feet, knowing that's the garage side.
Right.
So we could probably scoot this back a few feet, but not.
No, but
not significantly.
what I'm saying is there the possibility that you can actually pitch this a better way, or can we intercept whatever's going into the ground? I guess that's, or both.
So I guess we are intercepting the runoff with the berm, and we are directing most of the runoff.
Well,
to the north.
you're not intercepting it. You're just making sure it goes into the ground.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, that's essentially work. So, I mean, the concern is the nitrogen, and it's essentially like a septic system. You have all the sewage from the house going out to your septic system, which has to be 4 feet above the water table.
Yeah.
In this area, we're about 7 feet higher than the wetland. That being said, there's a lot less nitrogen being introduced here because the horses are going to be cleaned up after every day.
Well, of course, the issue isn't feces, it's urine, which.
Right, and from what I understand, they typically go back more often than not to the barn to urine, although not always, obviously.
Right. Right. So I think that a berm's a good idea, but perhaps on the upgradient side of the berm, French drain that might then be directed towards that septic drain field, not necessarily tied into it. It probably doesn't have the capacity to handle that much runoff. But at least if you could direct it along that 118-foot contour there, so that you do have at least a little bit of gradient, 118 to 117, and maybe have an outlet that's halfway to that septic field. It's just sort of, I guess it's insurance.
Sure, yeah, I think we could certainly do that.
I don't think that'd be asking too much. I mean,
No, I think it's pretty
yeah,
simple construction. to do
simple
that.
trench full,
Yeah.
a French drain type trench and discharge at least a bit to the west of the buffer, and it just gives you a little bit more distance from the wetland itself for infiltration to take place, and also for bacteria to get to work on that area.
Right, yeah, I think we do it just like the stone trench we do on a lot of projects, and
Yeah.
have a perforated pipe in it and
Mhm.
daylight it. I think we could
And-
probably even
And
have two
Jeff, it
daylight
looks,
points.
it
one
looks
here
like
and
there
one
there
back.
could be a wetland just to the north of that exposed ledge. I'm just
Yep.
basing that on looking at the contours and looking at some of the vegetation there. So if you could just stroll out there and have a look. I'm not asking that you delineate anything unless there's really a good reason to do that. Maybe Charlotte can go with you or whatever. And if there's,
I'm gonna send Brad Holmes out. He's the expert on it.
okay, that's even better. It's a hunch based on not very much, but just to be on the safe side here, I think we should look at that, at least within, 50 feet of that ledge and because that, as you said, that's where most of your runoff is going. And you can see there's some V's in your contours there that run from that 65-foot call out down to your North 65 1431 West call out. So that would obviously be the flow path that anything would follow.
Okay, we can look into it.
Great.
Jeff,
keep-
sorry if I missed this. Are there any plantings proposed for this plan? I see there's 3 trees in the 100 coming out. Are we replacing those?
I'm not proposing any trees to be replanted now.
Would the client be willing to?
I think so. I think we could put some trees along the edge of, probably this would be an appropriate area in the lawn, the
Yeah.
50-foot buffer, kind of enhance the buffer there.
That's what I was thinking, just because I'm looking at the aerial map, that's part of the 50 that looks like it could, be down gradient of the paddock. So you'd be adding some to the buffer there. Maybe converting some lawn to something that's a little bit more functional as from an ecological standpoint for the buffer zone.
Horses might appreciate some south trees on the south of their paddock anyway to give them a little bit of shade.
True.
We're gonna be horse experts soon around here.
So Jeff, can
I
I,
used to have to care for some in my past, so I have some notion of how they behave.
so Jeff, can I recommend that we continue this hearing? You add in the stone trench, add in trees, and then have Brad investigate if there's a wetland to the plan north of this.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Do you have a meeting in 2 weeks on the 22nd?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, if we could continue to that one, we could get these plans back into town.
Okay, let's do that then. We will continue till what was the date? 22nd?
22nd.
22nd. Okay,
All right, thank you, everyone.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Our next hearing this evening is 754 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. This is a septic upgrade continued from May the 25th. Hello,
Hi,
Mr.
Ed.
Watley.
Would you, Phil Spath said he could join, but I think I gave him a later estimate for timing. Do you want me to try and call him to see if he can jump on?
Oh, sure. Or I might have
Okay.
I think I have a cell. I could shoot something over if you want.
Sure.
That'd be
Imagine
great.
he's
Thank you.
at his computer. Actually, I'll just call him. Oh, hey, Phil, it's Ed. So things moved ahead a little quicker than expected, and so we're gonna get heard right now. Unless that's bad for you, and maybe they could. Do you have one more, Charlotte?
We do not.
You don't.
No, we're going to continue the last
We
one.
could, well, we have a COC. We could
We do have a
come back.
COC if we wanted to circle back to the COC.
Okay. Phil, how far out are you from being able to join? Okay. Okay, all right, got it. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye. He said he's about 15 minutes out.
Okay, we'll take care of some other business in the meantime,
Sure.
only because we like you.
All right, thank you. You can X me out here.
Just for the record, I don't know Mr. Watley, so I was just being funny.
No, that's fine. It works for me.
Um, okay, we did have another hearing, a show cause hearing on the agenda for tonight. It's been continued until, it was continued from May 25th. It is now continued until June 22nd. That was for 76 Lampert Lane. Next order, we're going to address, there were 3 certificates of compliance, 2 of which have been continued, 1 to September, which is,
Sorry, I was gonna actually correct that. So
Oh,
that
it's
one,
not-
yeah, that one I'm gonna continue to 6/22. I just heard from the homeowners
okay,
who have finished everything as of this week. So I'll go and inspect it next week.
okay, 34
um,
Bancroft Road is being continued and 12 Hobart Lane is being continued. But we do have a certificate of compliance request for NOI 21-31 and stormwater permit 21-36 for 609 Jerusalem Road.
Yes.
Charlotte?
Awkwardly, the owner was on the call, but I think she jumped off because she saw we were still going through the hearings. But I can just run through the, small deviations that I noted and a few the engineer noted. So this was a mostly a deck and landscaping hardscaping plan, just to pull up the as-built real quick. It was for a pervious sports court, a reconfiguring their concrete driveway, which was already concrete existing, and then some bluestone walkways between the garage and the house. They had constructed a bluestone patio here, a deck. All work was proposed outside of the 50-foot buffer, and all work has now been completed. There was also a separate planting plan. I'll just say the planting plan had no deviations. I can pull up the as-built if you guys want to see it, but basically they had proposed plantings in between the home, along the walkways, around the patio, some junipers here on this side, and then some other native species around the deck and around the sports court. So there were no deviations with plantings. The engineer noted 2 deviations. One was that the original proposed stormwater system was going to be an LC6 concrete dry well. They actually replaced it with an HC infiltrator, which is 1 row of 2 chambers. And it's a slightly larger system. They did rerun the modeling and confirm there were no adverse changes to the functionality of the stormwater design and the calculations. And then the other deviation was there were supposed to be 2 trench drains, 6-inch trench drains, one in front of the garage, another one in the middle of the driveway. They didn't do the one in the middle of the driveway, but they did clarify, given the slightly larger system, everything still connects as it should to the infiltration system. So they didn't have any issues with only 1 trench drain being installed at the bottom of the driveway. And then there were just a few other deviations that I noted on site. I did walk the site with Chandra, so the let's see, sorry. The drainage was supposed to go underneath the deck to the system, but as you can see, they slightly wrapped it around, and there is a minimal encroachment into the 50-foot buffer setback, which is a disturbed lawn area that goes out to Straits Pond. So there was just a small encroachment with wrapping the drainage around the deck. And the proposed deck just had slightly extended stairs. They were only supposed to be, I think, a couple. I think they came out another couple feet. That was pretty much it. They did install a small cobble edge around, you can't see it on the as-built, but they installed a small cobble edge on either side of the deck facing the rear yard. I don't know if it's more decorative than anything else, and it wasn't connected to the drainage system. But other than that, the applicant complied with 1 special condition. They were supposed to revise the landscape plan to have all native species essentially in the 100-foot buffer. So I had approved that updated landscaping plan before they finished before they even started any of the work. So they did comply with their special condition. And then obviously if the commission has no concerns with this as-built conditions and compliance, you know, I would recommend just the standard condition 40 and 41, no herbicides, et cetera, and all plantings must survive 3 full growing seasons or be replaced by the owner. And I can pull up pictures if you guys want to see the final product, but figured the as-built was easy to stick to.
Is the 50-foot buffer still staked?
No.
Then the pictures don't mean anything.
Yeah, it pretty much, the 50-foot buffer, like pretty much starts right at the edge of the stairs. And so the drainage
Right,
that they had
do you-
wrapped
do-
around.
Charlotte,
Yep.
that you can only say that based on what they put on the drawing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have
no,
to
not-
learn to
not-
be, you have to learn to be more skeptical like us old people. I don't believe it, to be honest with you. I believe that 2 steps are in the 50-foot buffer and that pipe is 10 feet out there. So, you know, but
Yeah, it is difficult when nothing is staked on site. At least we don't, if we want to start requiring staking the 50-foot buffer more, that would be really appreciative. Right now, everyone
I-
just flags the wetland, but obviously Straits Pond wasn't flagged.
I think we should. I think we
Yeah.
should make it a condition of any project which is within 10 feet of the
Mhm.
50-foot buffer, that the buffer has to be staked and it has to
Yep.
be maintained until the certificate of compliance, because I
That makes sense.
you
yeah.
know,
And also, we do frequently stake the limit of work prior to any construction, but we can add that as well to stake the 50-foot buffer for any, like you said, project within 10 feet of it. But other than that, didn't find any other deviations other than the ones I just listed and the engineer had already noted.
has the grass grown back?
Yes. Yeah, so this is all grown back. There's some small patches that some geese had been eating at, but yeah, this is all grass.
Okay.
We do have the owner. Sorry, Chandra, I didn't
Alright,
see you
well-
with sharing my screen, but do we have any questions for her?
No. Hey. I'm gonna make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2131 and stormwater permit 2136. Do I have a second?
Second.
Did you want the standard 40 and 41 conditions?
Yes.
Okay.
Having a motion and second, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McTerra, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Chandra.
So Charlotte, come up with a standard, whatever the next standard number is, and from now on.
I
if
can
there-
actually add that. Yeah, I can add that. I'm still waiting on council to approve all of my edits to the boilerplate, but I can just easily add that condition.
Yeah, otherwise we do it as a special condition. If they're within a certain number of feet, it's gotta
Yeah.
be it's gotta be staked and it's gotta be kept through the entire project.
Do we want to do that? Like, did you say within 10 feet or do you want within shorter than that?
No,
Or
10
longer.
feet, 10
10
feet.
feet? Okay. Yeah, I'll add that to our conditions.
Well,
template.
unless, I say 10 feet. I don't know. If anyone else has a preference.
Whatever you guys want.
Well,
Second, 10
I would point out that if somebody has a 3-year order of condition that they come back for a COC with, if that pipe went in 2.5 years ago, you're not going to know where the pipe is necessarily. So I think we should include within that. I fully agree that it should be staked, but we should include within that verification of anything that goes in within that 10-foot distance from the 50-foot buffer be confirmed immediately after construction, and not wait for a COC to do this, because in this case, you might never know exactly where that pipe was anyway, because it might have been buried 3 years ago and lawns grown over it, and
Yeah,
you would be none the wiser. So
yeah.
an immediate inspection upon completion.
Of any work within 10 feet of the 50-foot buffer?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Who are we waiting
Particularly
for?
for buried stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
you obviously don't need it if there's above ground construction, but anything that's buried that might
Yeah.
be difficult to verify, that's the sort of thing we want to keep an eye on.
Well, especially when we get plans where they built right up to the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah, there's a lot of plans that do that, so that,
Like who's gonna, yeah.
okay, I can add that. And we were waiting on our Title V inspector, Phil Spath, who did the test pit that we had requested. And he was out there on Wednesday with Ed. And he, we asked him to call in to kind of explain, help, assist Ed in explaining the results and what he found out there on site.
All right.
He did take a few photos that he sent to me as well.
We'll give him a few more minutes, but you want to give us any updates you have?
Yeah, I can do that. Well, some of them might be a little bit more of a discussion, but I'll go through the brief ones. So 18 Dolan Lane, most of the construction on the new home is done. They still have to do the rain garden at the edge of the driveway and all the plantings and finish the driveway. 339 Jerusalem Road was a retaining wall project. They are pretty much done, just finishing some final landscaping. So I'll get a COC request for that. And then right across the street from 80, well, not even right across the street, right next to each other, 90 Black Horse Lane. The house is up. They're working on the hardscaping pool patio area in the backyard. And they may or may not be, they definitely seem like they're further along than 80 Black Horse. So you might see that work be completed within the next several months, maybe by the spring of next year with all the plantings. And then for other updates.
Charlotte, I'm sorry, Charlotte, I'm gonna interrupt you on this note.
Yeah.
If you think at any time you go out there that they are in violation of the 50-foot buffer, tell them to stake the buffer.
Yeah. The erosion control barrier for 90 Black Horse Lane essentially is right in front of or on top of the 50-foot buffer. So any work past that erosion control barrier is a violation. So I'll keep an eye on it.
Or the day you go out there and you find it in the bushes.
No, it's been up from, I've been to these sites several times. The erosion control barriers have definitely been up consistently, at least since I've been there. But yeah, any encroachment past that barrier is a violation because it's right on top of the 50 buffer. And then nobody, Chris, I investigated Pond Street. I didn't see a stream in the back for that administrative stormwater permit. It's just upland forested area, but they are taking on a handful of trees for that sports court. And you said you wanted them replaced 1-to-1, or was it more than that?
No, 1-to-1.
Okay. They have like a backyard area, but I know they have like a pool and stuff. So maybe they can put them in the front yard or something.
Who did the survey on that?
This was Morse Engineering.
Okay.
But I will say there are wetlands south on the other side of Pond Street. And those are easily identifiable, but that whole area is like pretty much fully developed upland area with small patches of woods. Yeah, so if no one has any other concerns, I can just issue.
So you walk down the backyard there?
Yeah, it's actually slightly uphill, or slightly flat. But yeah, I didn't see any indentation or staining or any evidence of wetlands behind where all the trees were.
Okay.
Most of the trees were Norway maples, spruces, some pines, so not typically obligatory, wetland species.
Yeah. Okay.
And then 103 border, I don't think you guys had any concerns about that one. We already given them the
Nope.
order conditions, so okay,
Yep.
I'll move forward with those. I don't know if anyone's driven by 502 North Main Street, but there's a lot of stuff on the front lawn. It looks like the home is for sale. This was supposed to be a, I think a 2-family home. It potentially was being considered for affordable housing, but I don't really know what's happening with it. They have an open amended order of conditions. The last time we heard this project was they wanted to install a well just outside of the 50-foot buffer, which we approved as an amended order of conditions. But since then, it's been crickets, and I know there's been some activity. It looks like they're doing some like gardening patches, but they've been cleaning out the house, and there's a lot of stuff on the lawn. I don't know if anyone's concerned about it, but it doesn't look like they're really violating anything. But if I do see anything being thrown in the wetland or et cetera, I will, issue a letter. But at least for now, it just looks a little messy. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any other concerns. I haven't walked the back of the property yet, though. They did cut down a large tree, but that tree was proposed to be cut down per the site plan.
Which address was that?
502 North Main. This is the one right across the street from the train station. And then the catch basin issues. So recently I've discovered that there are certain properties in town that have been reported by neighbors that they are dumping dog poop down catch basins on Jerusalem Road and at the corner of James Lane and Cushing. I don't know why, but at least the person on Jerusalem Road, the neighbors have been calling on him. We checked the bylaws. There is a dog, I don't know the official name, but there is a dog bylaw. And the, obviously under that bylaw, waste management of your pet is required. And I don't know if it specifically says don't dump it in a storm basin, but pretty much any violation of that bylaw is the Board of Health, jurisdiction. It is a little tricky with DPW, with conservation, with all that other stuff, but yeah, so that's a thing. But that might be something to consider for future bylaw amendments. And then in terms of show cause hearings, there's one at 108 Jerusalem Road. I talked to Chris and Tom a little bit about this, but there was a person who was caught topping trees on Bow Street and the corner of Jerusalem Road and Bow Street. We did stop him. The tree staff for DPW stopped him. I spoke with the owner. He was going by an old site plan for a stormwater permit, but it didn't show the proper wetland delineation. So I would say at least 2 to 3 of those trees that were topped, and by topped, I mean like you cut off the canopy entirely, which does kill the tree. Those were in the 100-foot buffer, almost definitely, probably the 50, at least with one of them. He didn't get to the trees on Jerusalem Road, so I don't know if it has become a scenic bylaw issue. I did tell him that those trees may or may not be on town property and in a scenic road right away. But I guess for this person, he was going by an inaccurate site plan that he had for an old stormwater permit. So do you guys want me to bring him in because he asked me to double check? He didn't cut down the trees entirely. He just topped the canopies. I see Will thinking down there.
So you're saying how many trees are involved?
I would say at least 2 to 3. He didn't get to the ones right in front of Jerusalem Road. He was cutting the ones at the corner of Bow and Jerusalem Road where his parcel ends. I would imagine for a view. Usually that's what happens when people top trees. They want to get a view of whatever they're looking at. The tree foreman had stopped the work before I got to the site. So we were both calling each other about that, and he beat me to the site and stopped the work. I went over there to look at it after the fact with one of the neighbors who had called. And then the neighbor, then the property owner obviously called me a few hours after that. And I told him, you can't damage any trees within wetlands jurisdiction without our permission. So, I mentioned the show cause hearing. He just wanted me to double check with you guys to ensure he had to go through this process. But I'll defer to you guys. I'm trying to be consistent in town. So, but I'm happy to deviate the process depending on the type of violation. But let me know what you guys think if you want me to bring him in for a show cause.
Does the tree warden have any jurisdiction to request remediation of any sort?
Any trees cut down in the town right away without permission, they can issue, it might be a police thing too, but fines, donating to the tree fund, replacing the trees. Those are all within tree warden jurisdiction. I'm not sure how many options he's actually used, but I know recently there have been some issues in town of people cutting trees, without the town's permission, obviously without our permission. And so both sides, obviously us and then the town, are gearing up to, making people pay for it, replacing the trees, paying the fines. So at least with this one, we haven't talked to the tree warden yet, but I have talked with his site foreman, and they're not happy. I mean, those topping trees like that does eventually severely harm or kill the tree.
So can you talk to them and find out whether or not they're going to do anything? I mean,
Okay.
we don't have jurisdiction to do anything, right?
Well, those trees, some of them are in the 100-foot buffer. I would imagine close to the 50-foot buffer, because there's a salt marsh right on the other side of Bow Street.
Yeah.
And that's, the trees were cut on the opposite side. So I would say they're within 100 feet.
Yeah, but we don't have what's our,
Tree cutting and removal is under our definition of alter. I've
no,
been,
I understand, but,
Yeah.
but what can we don't have any kind of enforcement that we can get, restitution for. I mean, so
I think for
What-
trees cut or removed in the 100-foot buffer, we definitely have jurisdiction. The question is, the tree wasn't 100% cut down. So, we know it's going to hurt the tree over time or eventually kill it, but, he did technically violate the bylaw with altering trees in the 100-foot buffer.
I understand, but there's nothing that we don't have fines.
We
all-
can issue fines, but it's more of like a last resort kind of process, at least how you're supposed to do it. But we do have fines in our list of ammunition. But normally we go with enforcement orders and replacing trees, and as long as the applicant complies, we don't normally resort to fines, at least since I've been here. But if an applicant chooses to not comply, doesn't show up to show cause hearings, doesn't listen to enforcement orders, then you have much more of a stance in court for the fines to hold up in court.
But there's nothing in our bylaws that say we can make you replace a tree.
No, it's pretty much a violation of our bylaw for unpermitted work in the 100-foot buffer, and then it's pretty much in
Right.
our court to determine a resolution. But yeah, no, you're right. There's nothing officially saying you cut down a tree, you have to replace a tree.
Right.
Um,
So really the warden should take care of this.
Okay.
I mean, plus I doubt there's room. It's a pretty wooded site, right?
Oh yeah, like there's trees all along that corner of Jerusalem.
So it's not like we can make them there's not like a good place to plant a tree to make
Yeah.
up for the tree cut down, assuming that he was even going to agree to it. So the tree warden should do that.
Okay.
Well, the tree warden doesn't have jurisdiction on private property,
If the trees are in the right of way, he does, not on private property.
right?
We
but
have jurisdiction within the 100-foot buffer.
But he's been cutting on his own property. Is that right, Charlotte?
I believe so, but we weren't sure whether or not the trees were in the 100-foot buffer.
So Jerusalem Road is a scenic roadway in Cohasset? I can't remember the exact term.
It's a scenic road, but that corner of Bow Street may not be.
Right.
Really?
I don't think
I'm
it's
not
scenic. I
sure.
don't think
I'd
it's
have to
scenic.
double-
I don't think it's scenic till it gets down to the coast. Is it?
So Jerusalem Road is a scenic road, but I don't know about, I
Okay.
don't think Bow Street is. There's only 5 scenic roads in town. So where those trees were topped, I don't know if they're necessarily on Jerusalem Road. I think they're at the corner of Bow Street more. So, yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that this is outside of our jurisdiction, but it seems like collecting money for the tree fund really defeats the whole purpose of a scenic road. When in fact, we really want trees to go back on it. So what immediately comes to mind is 580 Jerusalem.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah, that person
they
cut down all the trees, yeah.
they cut down all the trees and none of them are replaced. And if they were just required to kick in
Yeah.
some spare change to the tree fund, it defeats the purpose, or at least the spirit of a scenic Jerusalem being a scenic road.
Yeah, and if those trees are within scenic road jurisdiction, that's obviously a different matter outside of conservation. And
Sure.
if they're on, the person's property, that's different. But if they were on the 10-foot right of way or town property, then it's the town's jurisdiction. But he did have a site plan from a stormwater permit that he was going off of. He thought he was okay outside of that, outside of those buffer zones. But unfortunately, what the site plan didn't show is the 100-foot buffer for the wetland, the salt marsh across Bow Street. So that's why I think those trees are within the 100-foot buffer jurisdiction. But if we want to just defer to, if the town needs to, if it is in the town's jurisdiction, if we want to just defer to them on any further action, I can, let him know. I think he's on the call. I know I do see a Chris in the audience. I think he might be on the call, but
Who
I can't
is our
promote him right
tree
now.
warden? Is he a contractor, a town employee?
Town employee, certified arborist.
Does he do anything else besides be an arborist for town?
Not sure, but he does have jurisdiction over the street tree policy and scenic road stuff. In terms of if someone wants to cut down trees on a scenic road, it's his jurisdiction to determine whether or not that they're a safety hazard or they should be cut down. So yeah, at least with DPW street tree kind of policies and enforcement, he is the person who weighs in on that.
Why don't you bring him in? We'll have a nice little conversation. We'll go from there.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
you
Alright.
could, maybe you
I
could
would-
ask the,
I
maybe you
agree.
could ask the tree warden to be here then. Oh, and Chris is raising his hand.
Yeah, we do have Chris. He's the property owner. Chris, you can hear us? You are not muted. Not sure if your sound is working.
Now you're muted.
Now
Is
you're
he-
muted.
Is he the tree warden or he's the property owner?
There are a lot of Chris's in town. I believe Chris is the property owner. Chris, can you confirm your name and if you're the property owner for 108 Jerusalem?
You get a whippoorwill in the back.
Having some sound issues tonight.
That's Tom. That's Tom's phone ringing.
Or is that an
All
Eastern
right.
creature? Tom?
Oh, there he
Mr.
is. He's connecting to audio. Hi, Chris. Can you hear us?
Not working.
Unfortunately, we cannot hear you. But we do have Phil Spath on the call
Yeah,
now.
let's go back to, let's reopen the hearing for,
Okay,
7:50.
Chris, if you can hear us, we're just gonna move forward with our last hearing and we can come back to this. Sorry, we cannot hear you though.
we're going to, open the hearing for 754 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Continued from May 25th. Mr. Spath, you're muted.
So, Bill was actually on his way to the town halls, unfortunately. That's why he's late. I'll just text him to unmute. Technology. There we go.
Hi,
Okay,
Phil, can you hear us?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, you want me to go ahead and just get started?
Yes, please.
Okay, at the last meeting, you asked that we do some more testing in the northeast part of the property, which we just completed that yesterday. It took a little while to get the scheduling done. So we did one more test pit. I'll share the plan that I sent over to you. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this looks like it should be visible.
Yes, it is.
So this is the area here between the property line. It's sort of tucked in behind the 50-foot buffer. So we did a test pit here, and we actually found an old monitoring well here that we were able to get the cover loose to get a groundwater measurement. So we got 2 points of groundwater, one by tape measure, and the other one through a test pit in which we were able to we excavated
We-
through, sorry, we excavated through a sand and boulder, sort of blast rock fill. And then we got down to a natural material, which was an old A layer, a topsoil layer, just a couple inches at 4.5 feet. And then at that point, we hit a very impermeable loam layer, and that's where we encountered the models and were able to pin an approximate groundwater elevation. And so the elevations that we got for groundwater were both of them were didn't provide enough room to install a system in that area. They were sort of within reason, fairly close to the water found in the dry well, just inside the 50-foot buffer, but give or take 2 or 3 inches. So that's kind of where we are. We don't think there's any way that you can put anything over there. Well, actually, we know we won't get the separation to groundwater. So it's more of a matter of we definitely can't fit anything in. And so, Phil, I'll leave it up to you if you have other things that you want to discuss.
Yeah, no, Ed was right. Due to the depth of the modeling we hit and that the observation well that was put in there for a while ago, we can't, without a mounted system, we can't really put a mounted system within that parking lot. We can't really fit that in. And another issue we have is the drain line, which crosses underneath the building into that catch basin. We'd have to pump it from the pump station down along the side and up into where the field would be. Well, that culvert, which is a 24-inch culvert, and based on the invert elevations and the ground elevation, there's only a foot of cover over that culvert. So in order to get a force main over the cover and to get enough fill over that, we'd have a mounted area in order to fill up, in order to get a force main over there. So it develops more of a problem trying to fit a system within that location. Can you hear me?
Yep, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that kind of eliminates that area of the site for to put a system into. And again, we looked all over the site, and that's the really the best and only location without mounding up the pavement is where we propose it, where the old system used to be.
So I have a question here. The groundwater elevation at your test pit 6 is almost 3 feet lower than it is at pit 7, yet they're only 100 feet apart. Do you have an explanation for how you could have such a steep gradient in your groundwater over such a short distance here?
It's hard to say. No, I don't. We just would with what we found in those test pits and took the measurements when we did it.
Yeah, and I would say just based on my experience in the new test pit, you ran into a material that is just not going to allow the groundwater to drop in it. Whereas over in this area, the material was much deeper. So you had the depth until you got to that tighter layer, which was much better than this layer. The layer at groundwater was a material that is permeable, at least. But I think a lot of it really just stems on the depth of the permeable material, which in this case in here was a sand fill that was used when I presume when the site was constructed. And then you do have a pretty, you kind of have a straight shot here to get to some lower ground. And I suppose you have the same thing here, but it's pretty, yeah, you do have the elevation here. The groundwater is flowing from, well, it's likely flowing from north to south. That's the way the grade is going. So basically the north grades, slopes down sort of in a southeast direction.
Yeah, that's clear from the water levels you've got. I mean, the wetland, the high stand of the wetland is your high stand of the water table, seasonal high stand. And I believe that's right at the same elevation that you saw weeping in test pit 6. Is that correct?
In test pit
6. 6 isn't shown on the map here. It's on your
Yeah.
older, it's on your older drawing.
Yeah, just going down to 6. I think, yeah, 6. We found weeping down quite a bit lower.
So the elevation is at 58.7.
Yeah, and that was by virtue of just having a better, I believe, just
And
a
yours-
better material.
And the edge of your wetland, the elevation is more or less 58.7 as well. You can go back and look at the contours there and
Sure.
confirm that.
Yeah, 58, 59.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So you don't have very, and it's only 50 feet from, not even that, from the edge of your proposed infiltration field. I mean, you're right up against the wetland here. You're in the 50-foot buffer. You're treated, but still septic water is got about 5 feet to travel before it gets into the wetland. I mean, this is an issue that is not exclusive to this property down here. This is an issue that the town should have addressed long ago to put in sewer along 3A here. But you guys are kind of in a tough spot here from what I can see. Yes, you can infiltrate it, but you don't have, you're so close to the wetland that I have a hard time believing that there's going to be sufficient time or residence time before for bacteria to work on that septic water before it ends up in the wetland.
The system we use is a treatment unit. The system that Ed picked out does treat the effluent prior to leaving the bottom of the piping. So it is a DEP treatment unit. So
Yeah,
it
it
is
does-
some treatment in that.
It's not- it's not-
It does have a,
I mean, you
That's-
wouldn't want a glass of water that came out of the septic field.
Well, you wouldn't want in any of the treatment units that it's approved by the state. But again, it's a state approved system that was used. It's going to be used.
Would that be approved for, say, a direct discharge to a stream?
there's nothing that's approved for direct discharge.
I didn't think so.
Nothing. And this, I mean, we're trying to do the best we can.
No, I understand that. So obviously you're going to have to put the system as designed. And we had a conversation about this today. The businesses there are a fish store and a proposed butcher shop And I don't know what else is in there,
A
but
pool, it's a pool, a pool maintenance, a pool construction site in a gym.
in a gym. So the load on this, I'm sure you guys have probably determined what the load for the system is. I guess my concern is that what's going to go into that septic system might be a problem. I mean, the butcher is, you know, so going to be blood going down the drain, fat,
We get,
food scraps that might go through some sort of maceration device, and the same with the fish store for that matter. It's not exactly the same sort of thing, perhaps. I'm speculating here, obviously. But
Yeah,
it might
so
not
we
be the
do-
same thing as people using lavatory.
We do have a grease trap. The minimum size of DEP is still way oversized. But we basically have a couple sinks in each of the, you know, the fish store and the butcher. They're low production. There is no grease trap now. That's something that we've added. We've also oversized the septic tanks. And then we have a third chamber that we didn't have to have, that we've added so that we have as clarified effluent as possible to you know, put our best foot forward. And then the Presby system has an envelope that is a biomat. And then it has the scuppers that are up from the floor, where normally you might be able to put, say, an upside down U-shaped infiltrator system that just basically dumps onto the floor. This is nothing like that at all. This is really about as good as you can get for an SAS.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any alternatives here really to this. Do you have any idea why there's a monitoring well there? Have you done any made any attempt to track down what the issue might have been? I mean, people just don't put in monitoring wells for fun. They put them in because they're meant to be monitored, which means there was something that had leaked into the subsurface here that was of concern.
Yes, there was a DEP number for the site. There was a point back in the 90s when, it might have been the 2000s, but where one of the delivery trucks, the hose broke and some of the dry cleaning fluid spilled onto the pavement. And so Dwyer's reported that to DEP and went through a whole bunch of monitoring and lots of reports and stuff like that. I kind of glanced through them to see if I could get anything useful for me. And I really didn't, but the DEP number and the case has been closed. And so that's what those monitoring wells are about.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks. I don't have any further questions.
Any other comments by commissioners? Concerns? Anyone from the public? All right, having no other comments or concerns, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing and to issue an order of conditions for 754 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, NOI 23-14.
Did we want any special conditions with this one?
Well, we talked about whether or not they could be putting waste from the fish and the butcher's shop, but it sounds like that's been covered, at least to my satisfaction, that the system can handle this.
Okay, so we didn't want any monitoring plan or anything like that for the system?
No.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. Thinking about it. I mean, the septic field is so close to this, and there's an intermittent stream there. If you look at the contours, not the contours that have been created here, but using the digital elevation, most recent digital elevation model, there's clearly contours that indicate that that intermittent stream passes for several thousand feet to the northeast and then hooks to the due east. So it's clearly feeding into a larger system, presumably Bound Brook at some point is its endpoint. And it looks like there's probably standing water there for a good part of the year. That might even be a vernal pool. One that I missed, huh, Charlotte?
It is taking the stormwater from Shaw's. And if monitoring is going to be needed, then we're going to need to either shut that flow off from Shaw's or get them to monitor upstream.
So they discharge, they go under the road and discharge to this point?
Yes.
Could you show us on your plan where that discharge point is for Shaw's?
Sure. So Shaw's comes in across the road. There's a catch basin here inline.
Yeah.
And then here's that dry well. And that bends to the right and discharges right here.
Oh, I see.
And so, you know, we're not just getting flow from Dwyer's.
Right.
And so it would be something that we, you know, I think the property owner would need to bring up with Shaw's.
Yeah. So I don't think that I don't even know that we have the jurisdiction to require a monitoring plan.
No, I
moving
don't think
forward.
so.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so I made a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions with no special conditions. NOI 23-14. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and second, we'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McNamara.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. I also need to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer. Will second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Giving a motion second. I'll take a roll call. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you for your time. I know it's you were like 15 minutes from my normal bedtime. I don't know how you do it, but I really appreciate it.
It's 15
Thanks,
minutes.
guys.
after
Appreciate
nine.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna sleep in the town hall tonight, so if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Phil.
Lucky you, Phil.
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
All right.
Phil.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Charlotte, did you have anything else to report?
Well, let me see if I can try to promote,
No,
right.
no, let's not today.
well, he's in the audience and he's raising his hand, so I don't know if,
All right, I got
yeah.
5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. That's all I
Okay.
got.
hi, Chris, can you hear us?
He still can't speak.
Oh, man. Well, Chris, I can give the tree warden a call. I don't know if any of those trees, you know, were within the town property, but it sounds like the commission just wants to move on at this point. I don't think we want to have doesn't sound like we want a show cause hearing. And we'll just see if the tree warden wants any additional action if the trees are on the town property. Are you guys all okay with that?
I thought we said the opposite. I thought.
Oh,
we were
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, these trees are in the 100-foot buffer, so
Okay,
we do have a say in this.
sorry. Yep, okay. We were going back and forth, so yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then I thought that's what Chris was alluding to, bringing him in that, you
Yep.
know,
Okay.
if it's in our, if it's in the buffer zone, I don't like the idea of like, assuming the warden is gonna handle it. I think we
Yeah,
should.
maybe we can get the warden to come that night too, and we can all come to a resolution.
Okay, I can, we'll make sure the trees are on the, Chris's property and not in a town right away, but I can still ask him to come. But sorry, Chris, do you have sound? Because I know you're raising your hand, but we cannot hear you. You're not muted.
Oh, good thing
Having a lot of sound issues tonight.
Really. Well, you can always use the chat. To answer.
Yeah, do you want to use the chat feature real, Chris, if you have any questions, but it sounds like we will move forward with, just a show cause hearing to kind of discuss this further. I don't know if you want to use the Q&A feature real quickly with any questions, but,
I don't think he's even there.
okay. Well, while I wait for him to type, I just had one more update for you guys, and it was pretty much just on show cause hearings in general. There are a few properties, that have, you know, I've gotten reports on, some violations, so I will have some for June 22nd for you guys, but there's a few, on the abutting 100 to 104 Howard Gleason. Remember the wetland that the, owner had used heavy machinery?
Yep.
Well, the Phragmites has grown back except for a patch in the middle. If you drive by Howard Gleason, I can show you guys a picture. I did take pictures when I was out there at 98, but other than a few stalks, there's a patch right in the middle of that wetland that is not growing back. So do we want to bring them back in?
Wait a minute, it's not growing back in the middle?
Nope. There are a
Oh.
few, obviously a few Phragmites popping up here and there, but the Phragmites is fully established now, except for a patch in the middle of the wetland.
Wait, what are we bringing them back in for?
Uh,
Sounds like.
we
it's
want to
completely-
have a conversation about whether or not they used herbicides or not when they said they didn't. Which wasn't allowed under the order that they have.
Did they use herbicides?
They said they didn't.
Well, how can we prove that they did?
I know that's the problem. So I don't know if you guys have any concerns of the Phragmites not growing back in the patch.
Well, maybe
Um,
maybe you could take a sample and send it off to the FBI and see if they can.
Oh,
find
geez.
some.
I
I don't know if I can do that.
I wouldn't worry about Phragmites not growing back.
Okay.
That's a sure thing.
Okay. I mean, eventually it'll probably pop back up, but there is a bare patch in the middle of the wetland. So you guys okay with that? With just
Well,
waiting it out?
I think it's actually good. Maybe cattails will get reestablished
Maybe.
here and
Yeah.
they can't outcompete the Phragmites, but
They do eventually have to figure out what they want to do with their open order conditions, because the management plan obviously allowed for or requested herbicide use, but we did not give permission for them to use it. So, okay, I'll just table, I'll just keep an eye on that one. And then there's a few, that I will bring people in, but one I am delayed on and I apologize for. It is a few months old because the spring just got crazy, but there was a person on Whitehead Road who cut down native vegetation right in front of the beach, on a private beach. Do you want me to bring them in too? I'm sorry, this did happen back in late March and I just haven't had time to write the letter, but I
Yes,
assume we
yes.
do want to see. Yep,
Yes.
okay, cool. And then, yeah, there's another one where there's a dumping situation on CJC, so I will bring them in as well.
dumping, you mean trash or what did they dump?
It is a business, and so there are a lot of the stuff, I guess, in the wetland. I've seen shopping carts, there's trash bags. I don't see any hazardous chemicals, at least right now, but I was only looking at it from the road, but it's been there for several months and passerbys called me and said, this has been here for a while, like what's going on? Is this even allowed? And no, any debris or anything in the wetland is considered fill and needs to be removed immediately. So I'll write them a letter to bring them in. But I'll try to space it out over the next couple meetings, just so you guys aren't bombarded for the next meeting in June. But yeah, that's it. I mean, and then also just, really just the if anybody has any suggestions on how I can better this process with show cause hearings, just let me know. Because, sometimes they're minor violations, But then other times you literally see someone dumping in a wetland. So obviously, you know, I'm trying to be consistent in town. But, you know, if there's, you know, I can issue violation notices just to warn people to move something out or to not do something. I can, you know, give them a slap on the wrist myself. Unless you guys want to have all the power, you know, then I'll just continue to bring people into show cause hearings. But, but other than that, you know, just let me know if you guys have any suggestions, if there's anything else that I can do to make this process better. And Chris did type in, he said the site plan was completed by Kevin Err in January 2020. The site plan is on file with the town, was approved by conservation. All tree work was completed per the approved site plan. Please review the docs and let me know if you have any questions. Happy to connect anytime. Not sure why my audio will not work. Thanks. So yeah, this was a 2020 stormwater permit. And I don't think all of the work has been completed, but he said the tree work was completed per the approved plan, and he is asking us to review the documents. So do we want to do that before the next, do we want to still do that as part of a show cause hearing, or do we want to just review it on our own and I can send it to you guys?
Yeah, review it. Send it to us.
Okay.
I
All
doubt that the cutting of trees was part of it, but
I will have to double check, but it was a pool project as part of a stormwater permit.
okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Wait,
Sorry
I
about the
got-
audio issues.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry. Go
thought-
ahead.
Thought you,
Sorry.
were thought you were talking to me.
Nope. Sorry. Lots of Chris's.
Just quickly, and I do mean quickly because I have to
Yep.
go.
Yep.
I can't remember the number, North Main Street, it was 272, 274, you know, the two properties are next to each other.
258 and 256. Yes.
Thanks. So the one house went and put a big terrace out front.
You mean the wall?
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's got a patio on top. I mean, what do we do with that?
The wall was a part of the plan, but I don't know about the patio.
Was it? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind. Then it's part of the calculation, so fine. Okay, I just didn't remember it being part of the plan.
Well, it doesn't specify patio in the walled area, but the wall was a part of the plan.
Okay, never mind. then.
Yeah, like this wall thing. I think at one point the building inspector thought it was too high. But yeah, this wall thing was a part of the plan, but I don't know if they put in the infiltration system yet. I've been watching this site every single day. Also, this has been a problem site with maintaining erosion control. Right now, there's no barrier in front because all the trucks just consistently run over it. I tried to get them to put up a silt fence. That obviously got taken down. Like, do you guys have any concerns with erosion control? Should I tell them to put a mulch stock back up? It seems like they've been keeping the streets clean and I've seen them sweeping it, but you know, again, there was supposed to be a barrier in front of the home, but obviously logistically with North Main Street, that's been really difficult. And then some people were complaining about trucks parking on their grass. So that's why I think they've just continuously kept running over the barrier and taking it out. And I think I told them to put him back a few times and eventually I'm just like, all right, this is a nightmare. But the silt fence was working for a while, but then they took that down when they started doing the heavy construction of this wall.
Yeah, I haven't put the silt sock back.
Cool. All right. I'll keep firing.
All right.
I know the person too, so I'll let them know. Okay.
Okay.
It was,
Make a-
oh, sorry, there's one more comment. The 100 tree, from Chris, the 100 tree line is clearly shown on the plan. All work was within the cut line.
What does that mean?
Like I think he meant the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, didn't you say it wasn't taking into account the wetlands, the salt marsh across the street?
Yes, I did discuss that with him, but there is a 100-foot buffer line on the 2020 plan for the wetland across the street on Jerusalem.
We'll take a look at the plans.
Okay. And we still want to have a show cause? Sorry, I'm very
No,
tired.
let's
so-
take a look at the
Just look at the
plans
plans.
and then
Okay.
we'll decide.
Okay, all right. Yep, Chris, we'll review the plans and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to close the hearing?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.